Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
Welcome, my friends, to the show that, well, actually ends in about 30 minutes. But Influencers Radio, it is a beautiful day here at the Influencers Radio studio. And, you know, it happened. It happens a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you can understand and probably relate to this. You don't plan on it happening, but it just does. You know, you go to look for one thing out on the internet. You're looking for one piece of information, doing a research on one simple thing that leads you to the next page, the next page, the next page. How many of you have ever gone out to YouTube, watched one video, and then all of a sudden, all of the related videos, you see something else that takes you down the line? I was helping my son with some homework, looking up, I don't even remember, historical figure president or something, and it just started taking me to the next page, And what, was interesting, we were looking at how, different parts of the life, different, ways that these people lived in this part of history. And, I'm always fascinated and interested in the mindset part of things. Because that's just part of my nature as I, talk to more and more influencers and entrepreneurs and, try to find those commonalities and see, they say success leaves footprints, and looking at those footprints. And I came across a site that had, famous historical figures and even current figures that suffered from mental illness. And they were talking about, most of it was depression. And I found it really interesting as I started going down through the names, how many historical figures and even, celebrities and politicians and athletes and scientists of today suffer from depression. And it's, all different levels, some mild depression, some not so mild. Many of them have been able to work with it, live with it, work around it. Some not so fortunate. I think of folks like Ernest Hemingway, or even, I think one of his granddaughters too, the Hemingways, that depression can lead to, much more than just feeling down. And what was really interesting to me, these are people that really inspired a lot of them. I'm talking about Winston Churchill, a lot of these folks that really inspired others, definitely fall into the class of influencers. How many of them dealt with that, with depression? And it was interesting to see, different parts of their lives and different times when it affected them in different ways. And I realized that as much as mindset has to do with a lot of folks' success, it then led me to, the percentage of people that today are living with depression. And they say that can't even be accurate because a lot of people won't come forward or don't want to talk about it, or it's just not documented. And I thought, well, that's a lot of people that it affects. But then it went on further. It's not just those people, obviously, that suffer. It's the people that live with these people, the people that care and love for these people that are also deeply affected. And so you have people that it affects their mindset. It affects their ability to succeed at a lot of different levels, not just financially, but just in general. And, I really became kind of fascinated looking at this and seeing how it affected different aspects of folks' life. Depression is a word. If you haven't suffered from depression or know people that have suffered from depression, then it is just a word. And as I started digging deeper, I started seeing a lot more meaning around that word. So why am I talking about this, and why is this relevant to Influencers Radio? Well, one, because our guest today is someone that definitely helped me understand at a deeper level about depression and how it affects you. And it's not just the root of that depression or what causes it, but also how it just stays embedded in your mind, and also ways that he helps people work around that I never really considered or thought about. So this is going to be a really interesting interview. And I think whether you, have suffered from depression or know someone that suffers from depression, and then I'd be willing to bet that you do know someone, even though you may not know that they actually suffer from depression, is something that is definitely worth listening to. even just to understand it at a little deeper level and not make it just that word, because a lot of people do associate depression with just, being down, being depressed, down in the dumps, having the blues. And it really is more to it than that. So when we come back, I am going to be talking with Etienne Gravel, and has some fascinating concepts and ideas around dealing with and actually eliminating depression. So we'll be right back.
Don't miss a thing. Listen to and download past episodes, get show notes, resource lists, and leave feedback at influencersradio.com.
Okay, we are back with Influencers Radio, and today's guest, I'm really, really happy to have him on because I've actually been reading some of the work that he's been doing, which is so really simple and effective that it's almost made me look at the whole problem. He helps people in the area of mental health, specifically depression. And it's something that really opened my eyes around the whole core of depression, but not just necessarily, depression, such a big and broad stroked word. But he really put some very detailed things around depression that, identified the root of why people, are depressed or get depressed, but more importantly is how that root actually affects their lives. And he's come up with a system that's called antivirus for the mind, which I think is a really appropriate and clever name for this system. So I'd like you to welcome my guest, Etienne Gravel. How are you doing, Etienne?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Fantastic. Very happy that you could come on today because, through my life, I've known people that have experienced depression. And when I say depression, I don't mean people that are kind of down in the dumps. Everybody gets down, but I think there's a point probably where people recognize, okay, this is a little bit more than me being down, or they can identify this. But you help people with this really, like I said, simple and effective system, this antivirus for the mind. And I want to go deeper into what that is. But first of all, I want to find out how you came up with that name, antivirus for the mind.
Well, I have a background in working in systems and computers as well, and so it seemed to me that a good analogy or metaphor for what people are going through is almost like a parallel with a computer virus. So when a computer has a virus, there's nothing really wrong with the hardware or the machine itself. It's not doing what the user wants because the virus is busy chewing away at what's in the machine. And so with the person, if they have an unresolved conflict, what we like to term a mind virus, the person will have issues that revolve around whatever caused that problem in the first place. So if someone experienced some form of relationship trauma, when they're experiencing something similar in another relationship, that mind virus will typically show up and cause a problem for the person in the new relationship. And so it seemed to me that it was a good parallel to use. And so we called the program the antivirus for the mind. It's like getting rid of mind viruses for people.
Well, that right there is a perfect, I think, an analogy, because, there's a difference. Like when you're using the computer, when you have too many things open and you have things and your computer's sluggish, that may be more an analogy of people that are just have the blues or down for a day. But the virus is something where there's actually a root cause of this problem. And what is it that separates people from just, having the blues, being down, which everybody experiences, to actually falling in that category of depression or having some issue that is that unresolved issue? What would some of the categories of that be?
You mean, how would someone know if they have something similar to depression? Yeah.
What is it that would cause? What are some of the root cause? You talked about relationship, right? Trauma. What's some of those other things that people would recognize that, this is a root, or this is why something that I really can't stop thinking about, or something that is really bothering me. So there's relationship trauma. What other categories would someone recognize that this is, probably the root of why I'm feeling this way?
Any form of trauma, be it physical or emotional, could cause that kind of problem. Basically what it is it's something the person went through that left a negative feeling with them. And by a negative feeling, it could be any kind of negative feeling, but they can't get through it. So they have this thing going on inside their mind that they just can't get rid of. So for example, and this is one of the worst case scenarios, someone goes through a sexual assault or a rape. That's something that stays with you until you get rid of it. And it's not something that's easy to get rid of unless you know how to do it properly. So the root cause, the unresolved conflict, is that the person went through a sexual assault. And what's left with them is all of the negative feelings that are associated with that and how it affects their daily life. It'll affect their ability to have a relationship. It'll affect their concentration levels. It'll stop them perhaps from sleeping properly at night. They'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that and trying to, get rid of those feelings. But without the proper tool set, they can't do it. And so the root cause of the problem is what they went through. But the symptoms, which is what they're experiencing on a daily basis, is what people call depression.
And that could be that replaying in the mind. And I guess this can happen at any levels. I mean, I can think back, when I was a child and I had a pet die, one of our cats, and it just kept, replaying in my mind, that the whole scenario. And it's something that's tough to get away from. And I'm sure that occurs at all different levels, whether it's, you said relationship trauma, abuse, any type of separation. It's something that is, I guess, embedded deep enough that people can't stop replaying. And I think, what I got from reading your report was that it's something that goes on to affect their daily living. It affects, the decisions they make and how they interact with others. Would that be accurate?
That's correct. All right.
So let's think about this. You've given some examples of sexual assault. A lot of people have different ways of dealing with this. There's some people, and I know this from experience, that even though deep down they know that they have this problem, they won't, haven't even visited a doctor to see this. They haven't seen anyone about this. There's others that have seen people about it, and depending on whether they went to a psychologist or psychiatrist, they may be on medications and to help relieve this. Does anything that you do conflict or contradict with that, or is it something that I think we've even talked about how you've had folks that have been able to get off their medication and where you've actually spoken with their doctors about easing off their medication. Is this something that's an alternative or something that actually can work alongside in concert with people that are already seeking help, but can it also be something that people that haven't sought any help can use as that first step to a solution?
It's available in any way. If someone were to come in and they are on medication, we take that into account. If someone comes in and they're not on medication and they'd like to talk about it, we can work with both. So, the one thing that I usually let people know is that the medication only masks the symptoms. So if you get off the medication without fixing the problem comes back. What we deal with is the root cause. And so once the root cause is gone, which is the actual problem, the symptoms tend to disappear. And
so the root cause is kind of a specific event. Do you find that that's generally the cause, that there's an event or a series of events or something that's happened that is embedded in someone that keeps this replaying for them?
That's correct. The person doesn't have the proper resources, be it education or coping mechanisms or perception or understanding, to be able to actually handle the event properly. So an easy way of explaining it would be if you were 1 year old and you lose your favorite teddy bear, it's a catastrophic thing. But if you're 20 years old and you lose the same teddy bear, it's just a teddy bear. You can go buy a new one because you have different resources. So you have either money in the bank or you have a spare teddy bear. Things are different because you have a different understanding at the age of 20 than you do at the age of 1.
So, I think that's a perfect analogy. It's the event didn't change. You didn't change the event, or the way the event occurred, but you are helping them change the way that they feel or the importance that they place on that event.
That's right. So every memory has an emotional counterpart to it, or a charge. So a negative memory would have a negative charge associated with it. And so when we go back through those memories, if we change the resources the person had at the time or the actual emotion that's associated with the memory, it won't bother them anymore.
Now, that is, I think that right there is very powerful, and it makes a lot of sense because, especially there's things, they say time heals all wounds, but there's some that are very tough to get over. But I guess the logic behind time heals all wounds is that your feelings or the importance you place on that event change or fade or something like that. Now, one of the really interesting things, is that you often hear from people, especially dealing in these type of situation, is, well, you can't make what happened go away. You just got to, learn how to deal with it. And I think that's one of the things that you help folks do. But you actually said something, when we were talking earlier, that you've actually helped people, in a sense, make an event go away. And if I'm overstating that or changing it, let me know. But that's what it sounded like, is you can actually, kind of affect or mix up that event so that it's not something that's on their mind or that they can recall with ease.
That's right. What happens is, for a severe or very heavy level of trauma, where someone, for example, accidentally took a human life, or someone was put through a sexual assault, the memory itself can be a problem to deal with. So what we'll do is I'll ask the client, is it all right if we distort the memory? And so we can change anything we want in the memory, because basically it's just the way the person encoded it visually or auditorily. Each one of those components can be changed. It's like searching and replacing a word in Microsoft Word or in your computer and replacing it with another word. You can do that with almost any area of a memory. And so if someone really has a problem at that degree and wants it completely gone, you can even give them amnesia. It's like learning someone's new phone number. You don't necessarily remember their old phone number. You would just replace their old number with the new number.
Exactly. And I think about that. Even my own phone numbers. I've had several phone numbers throughout my life, and at different periods of my life, I could have recited that to you, without even thinking about it, but I couldn't tell you what those numbers are now. So I guess would that be an example of how a memory can be distorted or removed from being able to
replacement.
Replacement. Okay. Yeah. So that
now, if you want to distort a memory, we would actually set it up so that the memory can't make the person feel bad anymore. I mean, I've used strategies that sound simple, but showing someone how to turn a very, very traumatic memory into a cartoon so that they don't have to live with the problem and emotional trauma that comes with that memory.
That is, the human mind is something that is truly remarkable, and being able to, understand it to do that. And I see that, and I've seen evidence of that working, and some of the, some of the examples that you've told me. It's really remarkable. Now, let me ask you this. There's one thing that I know a lot of people think about, is that, this sounds great that this kind of thing is available. Maybe they didn't realize this kind of thing is available, but a lot of people feel like, but my situation is different. What happened to me is unique. I'm not sure that this would work for me. What would you say to that?
Right. I would say everyone is unique. Each and every person on this planet is unique. And it's fair to say that, the way they went through something, no one else could go through it the same way. What I'd add to that is that people encode information in the same way, though. So you have eyes, you have ears, you have a sense of feeling, sense of touch. And those are the same sensors that everyone has. So the code that gets put inside of someone's mind, the structure of the code that goes with the memory is the same. And that's what we work with.
And I think by that, you've obviously seen so many different variables and so many different solutions, and, your ability to influence folks, not only to the way to change the way that they think or feel about events, but, you've actually influenced and inspired folks to share this, this information, to share this solution with others, which I think is just like a virus. It happens. By the folks that you've helped and them allowing to share that opportunity and that this kind of thing is available to other folks, I think is extremely powerful. One thing I like to find out is from our influencers is what influences the influencer. What is it that maybe you're reading or that you're studying or paying attention to now that influences you, not even necessarily in mental health directly, but just in doing what you do and the way that you help people and you educate people and, really are an advocate for their recovery and getting over this stuff?
I'd have to say I have a fascination with success. So I like to read a lot of stuff on Napoleon Hill, people like Warren Buffett, anyone who I would see as a coach or a mentor that can actually help other people beyond the scope of just mental health.
And it's interesting because a lot of those folks, especially Napoleon Hill, that even from the tactical and strategy side of what he talks about, the core of actually making that a reality goes back to mindset as well. And I think that right there is proof of how powerful the mind and the mindset is and how it can affect your life and your health, both physical and mental. Just on, from how you view things in a negative or positive, way. And that's one of the reasons the report, your Antivirus for the Mind, report that I was reading just really opened my eyes, around the, how this can help folks. And I know that, there's a lot of people out there that you said that one of their biggest obstacles to getting help is that they don't want to relive or they don't want to talk about the event and you do these evaluations. You help folks with evaluations, and you said that if they don't want to talk about this event, it's not necessary for them to talk about the event. How does that work? That's right.
The way it works is, usually we'll get on a call or on a chat, and I like to just find out how it's affecting their life. We don't really need to know what they've gone through. It's part of the beauty of what we do. We look at the structure of how things work. So when we change the structure of what they went through, they won't be able to feel the same way about it anymore. And we already know that. So when we get on a call, it's just a matter of finding out how it's affecting them and to see, if they want to move forward with getting something done and helping themselves out.
I think that right there is one of the great things that you do. And as I think what truly makes you as influencer is people's ability to break past that first obstacle of even seeking help or discovering what kind of help is available by making it that easy for them to be able to schedule one of these sessions with you, but also to your report. You have an incredibly powerful report that you are offering. How do folks one find out about your session, but also to be able to download this report? And we'll also put the links on the site here as well for them to be able to get to that.
If they're interested in reading the report for themselves to just kind of find out where things are at, the link would be report.antivirusforthemind.com. And if they're interested in getting on a call and talking about stuff and seeing how things are affecting them, we have another link, which is consultation.antivirusforthemind.com.
All right. Fantastic. We will put those links there for the site. I would encourage anyone that something struck during this this call with Etienne to take a look at that and, realize that there are solutions out there and realize that there is a difference between just having the blues and really having a root cause of something that affects the way that it affects your daily living. And, this is a perfect opportunity if you haven't, found the strength or a comfortable option to find out more about this, that you take advantage of this. Etienne Gravel, you truly are an influencer. I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. And I think your reach is going to spread, and you're going to definitely have a big impact on folks. And I'm glad to have been a part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, folks. That was this episode of Influencers Radio. Be sure you can listen to it, download it, and share it. Great information with some of the top influencers, and it's also a way for you to influence folks by sharing the influencers. We will see you next time.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.